For the very first time, the Government Accounting Office, or GAO, has performed a partial audit of the Federal Reserve. This has been accomplished over the last several months, resulting from HR 459, Federal Reserve Transparency Act of 2012, introduced by Congressman Ron Paul. It was initially introduced in 2009 by Ron Paul, and was then House Bill HR1207. HR1207 was referred to committee and died, but later was introduced, albeit was watered down. It passed. The watering down, however, prevented full disclosure or a full audit, regardless of the limiting on the audit due to watering down the language. The results are incredible and should certainly cause each and every American to be enraged, and to call for a complete and thorough audit. In addition, I feel personally that citizens need to take a closer look at their respective representatives that they send to Washington, D.C. to represent them. Many have known of the shenanigans for some time, as many are career politicians. The dangers in career politicians. A good place to start would be the ones who voted against the audit of the Federal Reserve. I will provide a full list of who voted on HR 459 and what they voted, listed by state, so that you can see who you need to put or vote out of office. Ask yourself this: why would any elected official, who it is their sole responsibility in Washington, D.C. to protect your interest, and to protect the Constitution, vote against a bill that would allow the audit of the Federal Reserve? A private corporation entrusted with our monetary policy, and at a time that our country is in the middle of the worst financial disaster it has ever experienced. Any, and I mean any, private corporation who conducts business for or in the interest of the United States government is always audited, or at least they understand that it could happen, and without notice. Why is the Federal Reserve any different? I will let you research and determine why they are different. Just be forewarned. They are, and you can easily find the reasons if you search. Just know this: there are many career politicians that do not have your best interests at heart, and should be run out of Washington, D.C., and many not just run out, but jailed. Yet we continue to re-elect the same old career politicians time after time, election after election. There is a saying in the IT industry: garbage in, garbage out. It is high time we rid Washington of the garbage, or we can just sit back and let the career politicians destroy this nation. We may in fact be at a point in which there is so much damage it would be virtually impossible to repair without major sacrifice beyond anyone's imagination. Far worse than many have already sacrificed due to faulty monetary policies, and in some cases outright criminal activities. If you or I would have done half or a fraction of what some of the bankers have done over the last few years, we would already be in prison. Yet we somehow seem content with none being jailed or even indicted. America, you had better wake up. Get off your couch, cancel a trip to the mall, and postpone your vacation, and get yourself acquainted with what is going on in your country. If you do not, and if Americans do not snap out of their trance and get into reality, all those things I mentioned, vacations, malls, will soon come to a screeching halt anyway. We are near that point. Now, I know many will say as they listen to this, I am overreacting. Many will say, America is too big to fail. A few banks thought this too. They failed. Many world empires thought that too, and they all to date have failed. So will America if we continue thinking we will not fail, and if we continue to feel secure in thinking our elected officials are doing their job to ensure it does not fail. They are not, and have not been doing their jobs for a very long time, and if you do not take a look and act on this at the voting polls, we will fail. I dare say the correct course of action would be to completely clear the whole lot, in the Senate and the House, completely out. Perhaps there would remain a few good and decent elected officials, but I would save that until a thorough review and investigation by an unbiased non-governmental body was performed. How on earth, and many of you may not know this, but how on earth can banks require a major bailout as was given as a result of the economic crisis in 2007, and then turn around the same year and reward top executives with million-plus dollar bonuses? Oh yes, indeed they did, and on the taxpayers' dime. Yes, the bailout money will be paid back by taxpayers. Not only that, but the money policies enacted to correct this mess are making it worse, and the numbers you are being told by mainstream media are all baloney, flat-out lies. Ben Bernanke and the Federal Reserve is doing nothing but propping up the system. If you do a proper study using the government's own numbers, you will soon see that I am correct. One example, and I will let you discover the rest on your own. How can we have a Dow Jones average that is nearly the same as pre-economic crisis 2006 average? The GDP has dropped from around 4.2% to 1.4%. The average college graduate was making $45,000 a year, now about $40,000 a year. Not to mention the fact that most everyone with a mortgage is now upside down in their homes, and hardworking Americans have lost on average about 38 to 40% of their savings, retirements and 401ks. The media reports a recovery. How can you have a jobless recovery? The unemployment rate is manipulated to not look as bad as it is. Go and look for yourself, and if you can do simple math, using the government's own numbers, you will totally agree. And what jobs? And what housing market recovery? Sure, there were many stimulus programs, and we are gonna have many more. They temporarily improved certain indicators, but as soon as the stimulus ended, the downward spiral began immediately. The housing market had a minuscule run after the Obama administration instituted the housing stimulus that afforded home buyers a $10,000 incentive. Wonderful, right? Yet the new home buyers in most cases did the same old. Instead of using the money to ensure they could survive in this awful economy, they instead went out and bought boats, cars, and all the garbage that most buy, and using the same old mentality they have always used. As soon as the housing stimulus ended, down goes the housing market, and it is continuing to drop. It will drop even farther. It has to. Are you aware of the astronomical shadow inventory the bank is sitting on right this very moment, and it is growing larger by the day? The shadow inventory is all the houses that have been foreclosed on and the bank has not placed them on the market to sell. Why? Yes, the banks place a few on the market, but are sitting on the majority of them. There are so many foreclosed homes that if they placed them all on the market tomorrow, it would completely destroy the housing market. So they are sitting on them. I have no idea what they intend to do or when, and I do not think they know either. Why should we complain is what I feel sometimes. Why point fingers at Washington when they are nothing more than a reflection of ourselves? Place most any American in Washington and they will be corrupted in a small amount of time. I know, not you, right? I said most. What this country really needs is a reality check, and a moral compass check, and a priority realignment. If we do not do it ourselves, the direction we are headed will eventuate one for us. Mark it down, and save this video. Then tell me in a few years I was not correct. If you take the time I, and many others have been researching all this, you would understand my point of view, and sadly realize the truthfulness of it all. This video is an excerpt from Atlanta Live News. Go to atlantalivenews.org and check out the site. Again, the site web address is atlantalivenews.org.